Good afternoon, guys. My name is Natty Iyer. As Hugo pointed out, this is the second in the demo. I don't know what is good, following trouble or I'm following trouble. So, you know, I'd rather have trouble not follow me than follow trouble. So, Kishan just talked about UCSE as a compute platform for the ISR router. This demo that I'm going to talk about and the solution that we're going to talk about now is extending that compute platform in the branch. Now you're going to tie it in with some rich network services using OnePK. How many of you in the room have heard about OnePK? Good show of hands. So, have you guys seen any OnePK demo before?
This morning.
Perfect, excellent. So this is addressing a space which we've all dealt with, right? How many times, as enterprises move more and more applications to the cloud, single sign-on is a big thought item that comes to IT managers, right? From a user perspective, you hate logging in several times during the day, right? So what we've tried to do here using OnePK, leveraging OnePK, we've tied up with an industry-leading single sign-on vendor called Ping Identity. And we've got the solution hosted on the UCSE, but it's just not a hosted application. The key thing here is we are tying in the rich set of network attributes that iOS provides using OnePK and tying it with the application. So just for a moment, right, I want you to visualize, you know, if at all you sign in, you log on to your network and basically using your network credentials, if you can sign on to every cloud-based access, that is as good as it gets. You're not prompted for a login every time you access Salesforce.com or WebEx or any application that's out there in the cloud. It's a big enterprise use case. It's also a big use case for big companies like Cisco, right? We deal with a lot of ecosystem partners. Take other companies in the automotive world like GM and Ford. They deal with the ecosystem of partners, suppliers, dealers, so on, right? And they all need access to the application that Ford or GM is putting out there in the cloud. Now, Ford or GM does not want to manage the user credentials of that partner, right? The employee in that partner organization could up and leave. You still don't know. You don't want to maintain their Active Directory. It's expensive. It's not the most optimum way of managing access, right? So single sign-on solution gets over that problem, right? And Ping Identity is the leading vendor in that. So what we've done is we've partnered with Ping Identity and we've got the single sign-on solution. And I'm going to show you a demo of how we've implemented this using OnePK for our own cloud-based application, which is WebEx. So you're going to see two screens, one with single sign-on with Ping Identity OnePK, one without single sign-on where you're going to be prompted for a username, password, right? So the problem to be solved is we're all aware of how we all suffer from it, right? I mean, it's something that we all go through in our daily lives, right? Being prompted to log in again and again into applications. And this problem is not only from a user perspective. As I said before, it's also true for enterprises, and it's also true for providers, people who manage the identity, right? So in this box, I mean, just ISR G2, you got the UCSE blade in there. So it's a maybe 1U box. This is 3900 2U box, right? Drawing 50 watts, 65 watts of power. You got a powerful solution combining hardware, software, application with OnePK, all put together in one box that gives you that identity appliance, if you were to think of it from that perspective. So a very powerful tool for an IT administrator or IT manager, right? So without single sign-on, every click generates a login, right? And every login creates business friction, right? With single sign-on, you're going to have secure access. So what we're going to show about here is a WebEx demo that I'll just walk you through. And this is how it actually works, right? If you were to look at how it works, you have the ISR G2 with the UCSE blade running on it. The iOS in the ISR G2 is providing the OnePK service set. We have two service sets that we are leveraging. The data path service set that punts packets from an interface based on a policy that you set, and you punt it to a proxy. And you have this proxy running on this UCSE series blade. All it does is it's an HTTP proxy, right? That redirects that HTTP request to WebEx and instead points that to the browser, to the end user, redirects that, a 302 redirect, to an IDP. An IDP is referred to as identity provider. That's the solution from Ping. So the IDP now gets that request, and the IDP makes an Active Directory dip into the AD server, gets the user's credentials, and does something which is very, very unique. It asserts a SAML assertion. SAML stands for Security Assertion Markup Language. It's an XML. It's an XML standard development, right? So it asserts a SAML assertion, sends it to WebEx. WebEx receives that HTTP request with the right SAML credentials, right, with the user credentials, and boom, there you have the keys to the kingdom, right? So that's essentially how it works. And the key components that make this work are the OnePK, the data path service set, the policy service sets, and the proxy that's all running on the UCSE. The data path service set is running in iOS, the proxy is running in the UCSE, and you have tight integration between the two. So here is the flow for it. The packet comes in, the data path service set in iOS punts that packet over to the Cloud Connector VM, that's what we call, which is running the HTTP proxy. That in turn does a HTTP redirect to the IDP, which is the Ping appliance running on the UCSE, again as another virtual machine on that UCSE blade, right? And that forwards that request with the SAML assertions to the WAN, to Cisco WebEx, right? So this is a widely used solution. Of course, we within Cisco actually use it for some of our HR applications. If I have to go and check my paycheck, it's one click. I don't have to log in. It's ADP, and they use Ping solution to do that, right? A lot of enterprises are coming on board with single sign-on. With that being said, I also wanted to kind of present another visionary picture here of where we are with this. So this is just the journey where we've started with the HTTP proxy. We can actually take this further, much further, right, with the radius proxy. I cannot see this here. Okay. So you can see here, you have, this is the vision. Of course, the demo is not going to show you this, but this is where we can actually go with this solution. You have a wireless client or a wired device getting authenticated onto the network using either 802.1x or WebAuth, right? And basically those credentials get stored in the session database in the iOS router, right? And then you have the radius proxy that's running in the UCSE blade that makes a OnePK query to retrieve that session attributes from the session database, right? And now, with essentially without making a dip into your Active Directory server, you have single sign-on from a network level perspective. You're providing the network level attributes to provide single sign-on for applications. So I just wanted to end with this picture because there are a lot of interesting work we are doing with the OnePK team and the UCSE blade. We've got a fundamental virtualized platform now that's available in a branch form factor ISR router. The possibilities are immense, right? So with that, I'd just like to switch over to the demo, right? And show you the demo of the single sign-on application using WebEx. So this is my remote desktop that I've RDP'd into. I'm going to clear the session here so that you get a clear view. So I have two accounts in Cisco WebEx. One is with no SAML. SAML is disabled explicitly on the WebEx end. So when I click on that link, I'm going to be prompted for a user login. I'm not going to be able to see my meetings. So you see this host login here button. So I click on that. And I enter my credentials. And you see I'm logged in, right? I can see my meetings. I can scroll down there. I have a network field day meeting today, right? And then I switch over to the Cisco Live demo with SAML enabler, right? And you see here that I'm right away logged in. I'm not explicitly prompted for a login authentication. And what I have here is the HTTP messages. I'll actually make this window bigger so that you can see it more clearly. So you see the HTTP headers here. You see the 302 redirect. I'm not sure if you can see it from here. Let me do it again. Cleared it. You see the 302 redirect message here? That's redirecting the HTTP request to the IDP server that's sitting in the UCS blade. The IDP then asserts the SAML assertions after doing an Active Directory dip into the Windows 2008 server and asserts it as part of the HTTP request to WebEx. Right?
So you're using one example of the ping application here. But I mean, there's a lot of applications right now which are getting in the way of these, not getting in the way, but inserting themselves in the middle of cloud services for authentication and also for inspection of utilization of these services.
Right.
So what other, this is actually really interesting, what other applications are leveraging OnePK in this? Is just this one example application? Or?
So for now, we have this one example application where we're obviously talking to other partners. I can't share it in the open forum, but we're talking with a lot of companies, a lot of solutions addressing different problem spaces in the network, right? And I think at the root of it is all the proxy capability that we add. So we being in the network, we can actually see every packet and we can actually redirect it to wherever we want and make that happen. So the proxy is a key element of the solution.
Absolutely.
So the solution comprises of an ISR G2 router, the UCS eBlade, two VMs, the Ping Identity VM, which is from Ping Identity, OVA. You just drag and drop that OVA into the UCS eBlade on the ESXi. And you have the C3 VM, which is the Cisco Cloud Connector VM. That's our HTTP proxy. And that does the redirection to the IDP. So, not a whole lot of footprint. You could actually run these VMs in conjunction with what Kishan just showed you, stored in a box. You could actually run an IDP. It doesn't take a whole lot of footprint. 4 GB of RAM for the Windows server, and 4 GB of RAM for the Ping appliance.
And the Cloud Connector VMs only engage for all authentication there, or all flows go through it?
Cloud Connector VM basically gets the initial authentication, and after that also the packets kind of go through it, but it doesn't do anything. It just gets out of the way. It just forwards it.
It's a mirrored flow out of that. So remember, they talked about OnePK being able to replicate as well as replicate. What are the other modes of guys?
So
you can take a flow and you can replicate a flow, or you can actually pass it through a redirect.
Yeah.
So are you redirecting the packet through the Cloud Connector?
Yeah. So or
replicating it.
Right. We are actually taking the packet, passing it, punting it to it's a punt inject mechanism, redirect.
Okay.
So DPSS stands for Data Path Service Set. So as soon as you can define a policy saying I want to filter on port 80 traffic, right? So from this IP to this IP, or you can say any IP to any IP, DPSS in iOS receives that packet on an interface, forwards it to the next hop, which is the UCS, the proxy VM, right? The proxy VM receives that, and then it has a config.ini file, which basically tells it, okay, is this meant for WebEx? What you need to do. Go ahead.
So it sounds like you're using OnePK just to get the traffic to your Cloud Connect. I mean, is there a reason you couldn't just use WCCP or something? Or
we could use WCCP. We could use PBR, right? You could use OnePK. With OnePK, you have, as I showed in that slide, the capabilities are immense, right? Once we develop the radius proxy to couple with the HTTP proxy, now you've got secure group tag, right? So your security credentials on the LAN, which today do not work over the WAN because of whatever reasons, you can make that work over the WAN with having a radius proxy in between, and and working with a vendor like such as Ping, which does the IDP to assert the SAML assertions.